जगदोदारिणी विश्वविलासिनी जगदोदारिणी विश्वविलासिनी चिरसुखदायिनी साई जननी चिरसुखदायिनी साई जननी राजराजेश्वरी जगन्मोहिनी जगदम्बे मंगलकारिणी साई राजराजेश्वरी जगन्मोहिनी.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Our special guest is one among the best global stars of performance and great inspiration for many. The splendid and grand stars need a powerful telescope for us to feel and experience their grandeur. I request our PRO ICF, Shri G.V. Venkatesan, to help us do that. Over to our PRO, sir.
Very good evening to all. Actually, it is a very rare occasion to introduce a person who doesn't need any introduction at all in the first place. Actually, I consider it as my very big honor and my privilege to present the person who is very close to my heart and also to millions of railwaymen, and who is not just a speaker but a leader and a performer par excellence. Actually, it is like I am a bit hesitant to introduce him because he is known to all. His name will tell a lot of things. It is in fact, it is like using a candle to highlight the sun. It's like me, but still, I consider it a very big honor for me. In fact, Mani sir has done very great, unimaginable things to Indian Railways and ICF in particular in just a very short span of 2 years, which others would have considered it impossible even in 2 decades, actually. So, such a wonderful man, an officer, IRMSA officer belonging to the 1979 batch, ERMSA cadre. Such a wonderful officer. And in fact, even after retirement, he continues to inspire millions of people by his interactions in the media and as well as in the public forums. And in fact, I have heard that Sir has offered very big opportunities with the very multiple corporates. But Sir said, no, I want to inspire people and continue to speak and let people become better. Because I am one of the biggest beneficiaries of his close presence, and I am always indebted to him. So once again, let me welcome and present to you one of the greatest personalities I have ever known, Mr. Sudhanshu. Sir, please, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, PRO, sir. I feel myself privileged and proud to invite our special guest, our ex-GM ICF, Shri Sudhanshu sir, to press the start button on the most powerful WAG-12B locomotive-like minds of our IRSMA doctors with his eloquent lecture like a dynamite to shed all the inertias. Over to our guest lecture speaker, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I hope I am audible and visible.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Dr. Nanda, Dr. Selvam, my friend Venkatesan, hope you're and other doctors of this fraternity who are present here, hope your virtual annual general body meeting is fruitful. As you all know, ICF is very, very far away from the Southern Railway Hospital. And therefore, you have perhaps not had the privilege of listening to me, because if you had, you would not have invited me, because if you make the mistake of offering me 20 minutes, I'm likely to burst in by another 20 minutes. But in any case, I'll request Venkatesan to keep a bell, because I may forget the time regime today, and all of you have to, at this some point, continue with your meeting. The subject given to me is opportunities and challenges for IRHS cadre of Indian Railways. So let me have a number one disclaimer. The only time I was ever called to address some doctors was when I was ahead of somewhere, and it was a seminar on gastroenteritis. I also had to speak on quality circles and automation of railway manufacturing that day, where I said that I support quality circles and I give my full vote for automation of railway manufacturing. And then I ended up in this seminar and I said, I support gastroenteritis with all my heart for its proliferation and its introduction. And that was the last time I was ever called to address doctors. A little bit about my profession and yours. Since we are not face to face, I have the courage to say this to you. The great liability, Herbert Hoover, the president of US, when the Hoover Dam was constructed, or was rather named after him, he said the great liability of the engineer compared to other professions is that his works are out in the open, where all can see them. He cannot bury his mistakes in the grave like the doctors. He cannot argue them into thin air or blame the judge like the lawyers. The engineers simply cannot deny it. Well, having said that, let me have some fun and then I'll come, because the subject given to me is, I think, beyond me. I'll come to that a little bit later. If you have read if you've read Macbeth, so Lady Macbeth sleepwalking in the guilt weighing on her. And when the doctor is called to see her, he looks at her and says, more needs she the divine than the physician. God, God, forgive us all. And when Macbeth asks him, how does your patient, his wife, the doctor says, not so sick, my lord, as she is troubled with thick coming fancies that keep her from rest. What I'm trying to say here is, if only we knew how to take care of ourselves, physical exercises, mental exercises, goodwill, empathy, love, these endless visions that we have of sickness would go away, and you doctors will have less to do and more peace at hand. When you go to buy TV or go to buy a sari in Nalli, so the salesman asks you, what is your range? So what are the days today? It is kind of scary when you go for treatment and the doctor asks you, what is your price range? One of my friends actually told me that my doctor gave me 6 months to live, but when I couldn't pay the bill, he gave me 6 months more. Well, that was some fun at your expense. I'm sorry about it. Lastly, as he also said that God heals and the doctors take the fee. When I joined railways, initially, those days our salaries were also not good, if you remember. So there was no question of any private treatment. So I was told that you must cultivate a doctor, because unless you do so, the railway health system will not take care of you properly. And as an officer, you deserve more. But I was young, I was told, and I was learning how to cultivate girls, but I had no idea how does one go about cultivating doctors. But as it turned out, I made many, many railway doctor friends, starting from Kolkata to Lucknow to Sikandrabad to Bangalore, Chennai. One, because in Calcutta he was a very good tennis player. Then in Dr. Prahlad in Sikandrabad, such an artist. Dr. Ravi in Bangalore, what a badminton player. And Dr. Srivastav in Lucknow. I used to do plays with him in theater. So, fortunately, I think I have more doctor friends in railways than hardcore railway friends. And I'm the luckier for it because, the added advantages of them being doctors and good doctors, good humans, good doctors. So I should pay my respects to IRHS today because these are the friends who are taking care of me even after my retirement. Now let's come to IRHS and the grouses I understand that the cadre has. That most doctors who want to do PG are forced to leave the service since PG is very rare to get and state provides for leave with full pay and all that. Railways don't. Specialization is a problem. Large vacancies and this CMP being appointed on contract is not helping as their pay is meager and they also leave or the good competence is not available to railways. Even HOD level doctors continue to work as grassroots level doctors. And they don't have any administrative power or experience. There is stagnation at every level. The non-practicing allowance is capped at 20%, and even the salary is capped at certain level. Because I'll come to that later. There is a poaching threat by private hospitals due to Mediclaim policies taken by even railway servants today. So they come to railway hospitals only for petty treatment. Lack of specialization by railway doctors in major developed fields of medicine. And we still have a very outdated infrastructure. Lack of specialty hospital, for example, Southern Railway Perambur is only the one, and so on. What I'm going to tell you now, I will only request you to hear me with patience and without bias, because it is something which I have learned to practice. And not that I was like this all the time. Even now, I am not. But having practiced a little, I have you can say, the audacity to tell it to others is number one, get over this habit of complaining. Don't ever crimp. Especially for the older doctors among you who have done more than 15 years of service. Light a candle. Look at solutions that you can provide. What's gone is gone. The purpose today, as I can understand, and I'll come to that, is mainly, I would request your association to think it's not about perks and money and so on. It's more to give your cadre a higher sense of self-esteem and pride. Now, let me begin with a disclaimer again, is the other departments of railways have not covered themselves in any great glory. They need large-scale reforms, something like IRMS, if implemented properly, is being thought of. We will see how it works. If it is implemented with purpose and empathy, we'll leave that aside. They have not done any great work, let me tell you. But we'll talk about healthcare, and we have to think. I mean, you have to think not from yours or mine selfish outlook, but from organizations with future, from the standpoint of organization with future in view. So I said, try to adapt or try to adopt a calculated, contrived way of loving your work and loving your colleagues, loving your patients, loving yourself, loving everyone. Like this, I keep repeating this couplet because the poet is no more and he must be turning in his grave asking for a fee and if I use it anymore. And that is very simple, that is love se mohabbat ka adna sa fasana hai, simte to dile ashik, phaile to zamana hai. Which means this love word has a very simple story. If it shrinks, it is the heart of a lover. But if it expands, it is the world. Well, so you may well say easier said than done. let's say. The solution would obviously lie in developing railway healthcare system from primary or to tertiary level, but basically excellence in primary healthcare at primary level. You worry about your salary getting capped at 2,37,500 or some such number. Now that's been done because if it is not done, your salary will become equivalent to the chief secretary of the country, which is the highest salary level in India. And do you really think that if your salary is made, say, 300,000, you will be satisfied as compared to the salaries the doctors get in private hospitals today? It would still be only a fraction of that. And that's why I was saying this thing about cribbing. Now you have so many officers other than doctors who have spent 15 years, 20 years, and they crib. When youngsters, probationers come to them, they said, "Why have you joined the service?" Leave, because the sphere of influence of railway officers is very minimal. Look at IES, look at other departments, ITS. We are nowhere. And now, what a kind of a stupid comparison can that be? You have joined a service, give your heart to it. If you don't like it, leave it. And I always told these probationers, if some officer tells you this, you tell him point blank, "Sarji, in that case, you must be quite a specimen, because you have joined such a lousy service and you are still here after 15 years. You are the last person I should be taking advice from." My simple suggestions, listen to it with an open mind. I would say, let's say, we should induct doctors. Nowadays, it is very difficult to get doctors because obviously nobody wants to leave it at MBBS. They want to do specialization and whatever. There's so many reasons. Induct doctors with a service span of 10 years with full facility of voluntary retirement and pension given to them after 10 years. Those who do PG while in service, sponsor them from railways with cost in a period 2 to 5 years of service after joining with a 5-year bond. And they can also leave after for serving for 5 years after their PG. So if you go after 5 years, you do PG for 3 years, 8 years plus 5 years, after 13 years, again you are free to join the open world with full pension. And those who join should be given dedicated, good training in primary care, making them experts in emergency treatment, PME, dealing with accidents, basic investigation, certification, distribution of drugs. There's so many fields in which they can really become experts. Those who want to leave after 10 years, as I said, or 13 years, they are free to go. And those who still want to be here, they should be taken in IRMS, Indian Railway Management Service, which is, this is, note what I'm saying. They are good enough after 13 years, still want to do, with some screening, to join other stream, other departments of railways, because they are here now and they don't have an interest to specialize or go to hospitals for treatment. Maybe having learned for 10, 15 years in railways, they are good for management. They can be very good personnel officers, for example. So let them join RMS based on some screening, obviously. And others who don't join IRMS, because numbers joining RMS would not be very high. So they should join mainly in administrative work of railway hospital. For the first 10 years, doctors should be free from any other duty than the core work of a doctor. The basic practical experience of working with patients will be beneficial for them. And this practical exposure in about 5-10 years will help them go improve their skills. Along with this training to doctors, we must ensure highly trained which railways has to afford for giving very good primary health care. Paramedical staff, including pharmacists and other similar staff of a level best in the country, so that these doctors who are serving for their first 10 years do pure, unadulterated doctor's work and no nonsense like local purchase and BP checks and giving injections and so on. Free the doctors totally from sanitation and hygiene related work. It's a managerial work which somebody else, some other department of railways has to do. Don't involve doctors in that. As I said, possibility to join IRMS also exists. All right, let me think now. I would not advocate a separate cadre for hospital management. I said first 10 year young doctors deal with patients. Those who are still with railways after that, they deal with hospital management. They can still do some outpatient or whatever is of their interest, but largely that. And then we come to the infra. Improve your infra beyond recognition for primary health care. As it is, railway hospitals are considered cleaner than the government hospitals. I remember I was in Bangalore, the DRM, and Dr. Buden was the CMS, and we had made a new ward, small ward, 12 beds or something like that. But I had also taken along with Dr. Buden some care to make it hygienic and so on. And there was an accident, and we killed some people, unfortunately. But the chairman railway board visited the hospital. He went to this ward and he said, I have never seen a ward like this in a railway hospital. And it hardly took any effort. So for primary health care, the best infrastructure possible and let the doctors decide what they want. It should not be, there should be no administrative restriction. Give the power to the CMS to do everything. So he doesn't have to go to a DRM or a GM or anybody. And when it comes to secondary and tertiary care, limit it only to tier 2 cities for secondary and tertiary only in metros, maybe 4 metros only. Because you already have the infrastructure, use it. And in coming future, perhaps you can have some expert private hospital or agency hire out the infra to that agency, along with visiting doctors and surgeons, and slowly maybe even hive it off. Now, it's all about pride in your work. If I'll tell you an example of Secunderabad. I was the ADRM and I was in charge of sanitation and cleaning also. Now, the typical railway man's reaction would be, oh my God, he has no work. Believe me, that was my main work. I used to know Safai Walas by name. And I used to know, of course, all the health inspectors and spent a lot of time with them. And when Secunderabad became the platform number 10, if you go there, I don't know the condition now, it was perhaps the best platform in the country in terms of cleanliness. And I remember people getting down and looking around, and they would say that they could not believe that they were standing at a platform in India. The pride it gave me was perhaps much more than the pride it has given me while designing various rolling stocks or while manufacturing whatever, running trains and so on. It's all about pride. So when you do this primary health care, concentrate on that and do it in a manner that you are the best in the country, that will give you enough pride. And those who want to move up the ladder or those who want to continue in railway, you are free after 10 years. This was all I wanted to say. I think I've taken, Mr. Venkatesan has still not sounded the bell, but I will not exceed myself because after all, I also come to you with limited intelligence of my own. And the underlying idea is not money, not influence over others like an IS officer has. The idea is to derive the best pride you can get out of the work. And my strategy for this would be this, not that we start making Indian Railways hospitals or medical service one of the best. Imagine railway manufacturing, which is a core activity, you would think, ICF. If implemented properly, I believe that even railway manufacturing is not core operation of railways. Core operation is running trains. So I would, if they would like to corporatize or even at some days privatize railway manufacturing, I would not be against it. I would only say it should be done in a manner which has empathy so that all stakeholders like it, including unions. Do it in a manner which is a win-win for everyone. Similarly, railway R&D at RDSO, well, it does not really work out or give country good designs because it's not the core work of railways. The core work of R&D would mean a person to be engaged in R&D all his life. So outsource it to people who do it better than you. Similarly, that's what I'm saying. Core work for IRHS should be primary health, the best in the country. That would be my recipe. Otherwise, I thank you all for affording me this great platform to express my views. I wish you all the doctors and the only non-doctor here, I guess, Mr. Venkatesan, to not only a very fruitful webinar today, but also all the best and a satisfying time as long as you are in railways. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really accelerating at enormous and space level speeds for our organization. Thank you all. Thank you so much, sir. And I would request our President, Madam Dr. Madhusmita Nanda, to extend our thanks to our Mani sir, our guest lecture speaker. Madam, please.
Yeah. Good evening to one and all, and special privilege to listen to the guest lecture of dear Shri Sudhanshu Maniji, retired GM of ICF. The speech was really highlighting, illuminating, and to note one of your facts, it is to say that you must love what you do. That is the basic thing, how you can reach heights and the goal. So any work that we do, we must love it at first and then try to raise the infrastructure that we have to the best possible means so that we can also deliver. That should be the aim of one and all who is working at any place whatsoever. A public, a state government unit, or whatever it is. So I think and our PRO, Mr. G. Venkatesan, all must have inducted the goodwill, the good thoughts, and we must reach the heights in medical science. And thought to give the beings. Thank you, one and all. Now I hand over the mic to
Thank you very much, madam.
Dr. Kamachi Selvam.
Thank you very much, madam. Thank you. Thank you very much, madam. Yeah. Thank you very much, madam. And thank you very much, one and all. And we once again wholeheartedly thank our special guest lecturer, Shri Sudhanshu Mani sir. And we wish to hear many more lectures from you like this, sir, to accelerate our performance in the near future, sir. Thank you, sir. And thank you all our seniors and our participants for this special lecture event of our meeting. And we conclude this session, sir. Thank you. And followed by this will be our annual general body meeting of our association. All members, I request all members to stay and others can leave, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks
sir.
a lot.